Okay, hello, hello, hello. My name is Joanna Clark. My name is Joanna Clark with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching. And today is my Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. Get your life back. It starts with sleep. And the topic is going to be on regressions. I have been getting so many questions regarding this topic. And it is probably one of the most difficult things that happen in our parenting journey. Right when we think we've figured something out with our child and we feel more comfortable and more confident with our mothering and with our parenting, a regression hits and then everything changes and we are baffled and confused and frustrated because everything that we had been doing is no longer working, or we don't really understand our baby during that big developmental change regarding a regression. So we're going to spend some time talking about that today. And I'm hoping that this will be really valuable information for you. So before I dive in, I just want to remind everybody who I am. I'm Joanna Clark with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching. I'm a pediatric sleep consultant, and I have been doing this for 10 years. So I have seen it all. I am a guilt-free, gentle sleep coach, which means I do not believe in cry it out. I really do believe that sleep is a learned skill and that we as parents, we love to be supportive and available to our children when we're helping them learn new skills. And so that would be no different with something such as sleep. And so gentle sleep coaching is all about being available to our children to help them learn their sleep skills, which means you can be in the room with your child, you can still pick up and put down, and it's just an extremely supportive process. It's based on science, sleep science, behavioral science, and attachment theory. So everything that I work with and discuss and have researched and learned about is all based on science-backed research. I also wanted to let you know that I am a best-selling author. I have 2 books that I'm a part of. The first one is The One Thing Every Mompreneur Needs to Know. I'm the featured sleep expert in this, #1 international best-selling on Amazon. And I have a section here on baby sleep strategies, because if you're a mompreneur, you know all about how difficult it is to be birthing your business and caretaking a baby. And if your child is not sleeping and you're trying to nurture this other baby, which is your business, you really need sleep in order to have the focus and the drive and the energy and the visionary thinking that you need to run your own business. So this book is chock full of expert advice from other experts, not only from me regarding sleep, but other experts on everything about that a mompreneur would need to know about how to run and excel in her business. And then this one came out in May. This is the series called The One Thing Every Mom Needs to Know, also best-selling book, which I'm super proud of. And of course, I'm still talking about sleep in this. And this is a great book because it's basically like 30 little books in one book. Because there's all different topics. So depending on what your problem is, you can just go read a section and off you go, and you've got the information you need. All right, so today I'm going to be manning the comment box by myself. My fabulous virtual assistant is busy today with her family, and so I would love to know who's here. Before I jump in, if anyone is here and they have some specific questions for me before I dive into my prepared topic today, is going to be on regressions, everything you need to know about them, everything that you need to do to make sure that you get out of the regression in a way that your child goes back to sleeping blissfully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in. So the first question is like, what is a regression, and how do we know if it's coming, and what do we do about it when it's happening? So there's basically three reasons for regression. The first reason would be a developmental milestone, which I'm going to be spending a lot of my topic on today, because I really want you to understand how sleep and developmental milestones are intricately related. The second reason for a regression is due to travel, meaning you have done a family trip and there's been some time changes or a change in environment, and that during the trip, your child starts taking on some challenging behaviors, or when you've come back from the trip, your child is having a really hard time readjusting to the normal family routine. That's the second reason for a regression. And the third reason for a regression is due to illness, right? It's almost impossible to go through parenting without having a sick child where you've had to attend to them at nights and naps, and had to do a lot of extra care and comfort for them. And so oftentimes when a child is sick, we have to hold, we have to rock, we have to sleep with. Sometimes, we have to just do a lot of care and comfort to help them during their illness. And oftentimes when we go back to trying to resume our normal routines after an illness, the child is still very much attached to the sleep associations that they had during the illness time. So in other words, if your child was ill and you found that you had to hold them upright at night because they had a cough, that when the cough is over, they're still going to have an expectation that when they wake up in the night, you're going to be holding them upright. So if your child previously had really beautiful sleep skills prior to a travel regression or an illness regression, then you should be able to go back to your home environment and resume allowing your child to do drowsy but awake at bedtime, so that they can then start to practice their sleep skills again, so they can go back to sleep in the middle of the night. So for example, like a lot of families, well, we're not traveling as much this summer due to COVID, but a very common thing that would happen regarding the travel regression is that typically a child at home would be in their own room, in their own crib. And then when they are on a travel with family travel, they're now room sharing with the parent. Now they're in a pack and play instead of a crib, or maybe they're even co-sleeping with a parent because of the room setup. Again, what happens in those scenarios is that sometimes we as parents end up having to do a lot to help our babies go to sleep and go back to sleep in those new environments, because maybe you don't want the person next door in your hotel room to hear you or hear your baby crying at night, or maybe you're staying with friends or family and you don't want them to be woken by the baby crying. And so you'll have to do a lot of immediate response, which then by accident creates some negative sleep associations. So then when you go back home, that's what your child is expecting. Same thing with illness. If they're sick and you have to hold them all night, then they're still requiring that. So if your child previously had their sleep skills, when you go back to your home environment, if you resume the original routine, they should be able to get back into their normal sleeping behaviors, like meaning sleeping all night, consolidated, within 3 to 5 days. But only if you're consistent. If you go into a travel or illness regression without having your child have sleep skills, then when they come out of the travel or sleep regression, you could be in a worse position than you were prior, in which case that's a completely different topic that I can maybe even do a whole nother Facebook Live on that, which is, what do I do if my child didn't have very good sleep skills before a regression and now things are worse? Maybe I'll put that on my list for next time. That's actually a good idea. But today what I want to focus on a little bit more is the third reason for regression, which is the developmental milestones. This is, no matter who you are, there's almost no way you can escape a developmental sleep regression. I wish we could, but it's almost impossible. So it's super important to know about them and understand them, and have the proper attitude towards them, so that you don't get as frustrated and confused and upset by them, because they can be very disorienting to the baby, and of course, consequently disorientating to us as the caregiver. Okay, so what is a developmental regression? So in the first 20 months of life, a child will go through 10 developmental milestones, which is just amazing if you think about it. And why this is so important to know is that every single time they go through a cognitive or physical developmental milestone, there almost inevitably will be a sleep regression. And so with that, it's important to just realize that when the sleep regression is happening, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a joyous thing because it means your child is learning a new skill and they're moving on to the next stage of their development, which is like amazing, right? So for example, one of the big first sleep regressions that comes is the 4 to 5 month sleep regression. And that's when a child is typically trying to master their rolling. And one of the reasons why that particular regression is a very difficult one for most families is that the rolling milestone is really two physical developments at once. They have to roll from back to front and then from front to back. And so they have to learn two very different skills. And that's hard. And they're all doing it right there when they're like, still a newborn. Because remember, in the world of sleep science, the newborn phase is 0 to 6 months. So there they are, these little itsy bitsy creatures that are learning how to do this really difficult task of front to back and back to front. And whenever they go into a physical milestone, the child will typically always become, I call it the 3 C's. They'll typically become clingy, cranky, and you'll see a lot of crying. And the reason why, it's not because you have a cranky baby. It's not because you don't know how to care appropriately with your baby and you can't comfort them. It's because when they go into one of their developmental milestones, it is hard on them. The world is completely different to them. What they could do yesterday is different than what they can do today. The whole world feels and looks different. And so therefore they become very disoriented and therefore they become crying, clinging, and cranky. And so our role as a parent during these, 10 developmental leaps is to become more emotionally present for our children, to become more available to them because they really do need us in a brand new way. So when these milestones come, expect there to be bad sleep. And some milestones, it can take a baby 2 to 3 weeks to get through a milestone. So that means you're going to go through a period where 2 to 3 weeks, you're probably going to have a child that's crying and clinging and cranky. You're also going to have a child that's going to have some totally bizarre sleep habits. So one of the telltale signs that a milestone is coming or you're smack in the middle of one is nap skipping. So they'll literally, like, again, before a regression, like everything's great, you've totally dialed it in, you feel really comfortable and confident, and then boom, a regression hits and all of a sudden those naps that you depended on, they're not happening. The child's either nap skipping, or the timing's different, or they protest a lot before the nap, or the sleep crutches that you had that you were reliably using are no longer working. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. I feel miserable. I can't help this baby. Very indicative of a milestone regression when you're starting to feel that way and when you're starting to see those behaviors for your child. The second thing that you'll notice when you're in a milestone regression period is the child will start having really weird wakings in the middle of the night. They will have long periods of waking. They will be up making weird sounds, doing weird activities in the crib. And when you go to help them go back to sleep, they will resist. They will be, again, crying, clinging, cranky. They will just be almost like I had a mom recently whose child went through the walking milestone, and the way she described her baby, she says, it's almost like my baby's having like an anxiety attack in the middle of the night. They're very jumpy and very skittish. and nothing that I do or my husband does to help comfort the baby is working. It's just miserable. So if any of you out there are experiencing that right now, like, let me see an amen, or yeah, that's me. Because it's so hard when there you are at 2 a.m. and this child's awake for a long period of time, and no matter what you're offering them in terms of care and comfort and support, they're rejecting. And this is often when arguments happen with parents in the middle of the night. You know, you're trying really hard and then you're frustrated. So you're like, hand the baby to the dad, and the dad is unsuccessful. So then you're frustrated with dad that he can't do it. So then you grab the baby back. Again, who's been there, right? I know I've been there, and I know I talk to clients every single day that is the experience that they're living, which is why I want to talk to you guys about this today, to normalize it. Because oftentimes we take if our child's not sleeping well, we as mothers will often take that burden upon ourselves, and we start feeling really inadequate. Sometimes we feel ill-equipped, inadequate. We feel guilty. We feel confused and frustrated because nothing's working. And I just want to let you know, it's not because you're not capable, and it's not because your child isn't a beautiful, wonderful human being. It's that they're going through a milestone, and that this is what's to be expected. And why I want you to have a good attitude about it is that this is a marvel. Like, this child, you are raising this child in a way that they are being cared and comforted for to move on to their next milestone. You're doing exactly what you should be doing, because they wouldn't be moving on to the milestone if they weren't getting all the care and comfort that you were offering them. And that what's behind this sleep regression is your child doing something totally new that's going to blow your mind. Your child will come out of this regression period in such a good mood that you'll easily forget what you had just been through, because you'll be so charmed and delighted by your child being so proud of themselves with their new skills that they master. So one of the tips that I have for you, so that you know, especially if you're a newborn mom, 0 to 6 months, I'm going to highly, highly recommend that you do 2 things. Number 1, I would get the Wonder Weeks book. This is a lifesaver for the first 20 months of life. And I would also simultaneously download the app as well. I think you want both. The app is great for just quick referencing, but when you want to really go deeper and learn more about that important milestone, you're going to want the hard copy book. It's extremely well written, and the Wonder Weeks is all based on anthropological research, which is why, and this is really important, when you're looking up milestones, and especially if you're signing up for the app, you want to make sure that you use your due date, not the date that your child was actually born. And the reason why is that developmental leaps are based on brain development, which is totally 100% related to original gestation. So at the time of conception is literally when brain development begins, which is fascinating and amazing, which is why I love this book. And so all the leaps are literally based on conception, which is tracked by due dates, not birth dates. So if you have this book and you have the app, what's great, and you've used your right due date, which if you can't remember, just call your OBGYN and ask for that, because they'll have it in your chart. You can then adequately prepare and know when the next leap is coming. And literally, I have clients that have children that go through really hard leaps. And so they literally plan their vacations to make sure that they're not going to be doing any kind of travel or vacation during their child's leap because they've already been through 2 leaps and they know how hard it is. And they're like, okay, so when the next one comes. So the 4 to 5 month sleep regression is the first one you're going to see that's going to really rock your world. That's the rolling milestone. And that is why we always you hear every mom that's, has a newborn, oh my God, the 4 to 5 sleep, 4 to 5 sleep regression is here. What do I do? So the key thing about what to do is when they're in the 4 to 5 month range, it's really about keeping, helping your child learn that skill during the day. So you want to do as much tummy time practice as possible. You want to do as much rolling practice as possible during the day, because if you don't let them practice during the day, they will wake up in the middle of the night and they will practice it. And then really it's all about just kind of surviving that 4 to 5 month sleep regression, because oftentimes the babies that young don't yet have their sleep skills fully developed. And so usually it's after that rolling milestone when it becomes a lot easier for children to learn their sleep skills. The next big milestone that starts hitting is during the sitting milestone. So babies will start to sit anywhere between 6 and 9 months. And this one is really funny because babies will, they will learn how to sit up, but then they topple over and they hit their heads. And so when they're practicing in the middle of the night, which they will often wake to do, you hear of a lot of banged heads, and because they're practicing and they topple over and they hit their head, and it's kind of sad. So I want you to know that that could happen to you. And the other thing that sometimes starts to happen with the sitting milestone is they could start bumping up against the next milestone that comes next, which is the kind of the crawling followed by the standing milestone, which starts to happen anywhere between 9 and 11 months. And so what's difficult about that is for a lot of babies, when they start to stand, what they'll do is they'll get in the crib, and they love to practice in the crib because it's such an easy place to pull up. And so they'll pull up, but then they don't know how to get back down. And they get so mad and they get so scared and they get so disoriented. So a key thing when they're doing the standing in the crib, or learning the standing milestone, is practicing during the day becomes paramount. But not only just the standing up practicing, but helping them learn how to come off by themselves. And again, that also sometimes involves some bumping of heads and some unnecessary crying because they're afraid to let go. Then they let go and they fall backwards and they hurt themselves. So my recommendation is to practice during the day on the floor and purposely kind of remove their hands from whatever they're holding on to, so that they can learn to see what it feels like to be unbalanced and to have to decide to plop down. Sometimes we even have to practice kind of the ring around the rosy, where we have them in our, holding them like this, and then we have to kind of force them to come down, singing the ring around the rosy song, so that they have that experience of understanding what it means to plop, to bend their legs and to come down. Once they learn how to do that on floor practice, then you can actually go to the crib during the daytime when they're not hungry or tired and have them practice that skill in the crib. This will help you a lot with nap skipping and night arousals, because one of the reasons why those arousals are so long or they're so difficult is because really the child is scared and frustrated about this newfound skill and about how to come off the rails. And so if we're practicing with them during the day when they're not hungry or tired, it sure does make life a lot easier for them. But more importantly, as the caregiver, you're doing your job helping them move through this milestone. And again, remember, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, as a parent of a child going through a milestone, it is your job to offer a lot of care and comfort and tremendous patience. They need you during this time. They need your emotional presence. They need your ability to help coach them with the newfound skills. They need your patience. They need collaboration between you and your partner, so that you guys aren't arguing about how to caretake the baby in the middle of the night when there's all these difficult arousals. these are the reasons why I'm talking about this difficult topic. It's not just about sleep and regression, it's about how the family unit is functioning. And I want there to be a harmonious marriage. And I also want you to relish in these milestones, to realize how amazing it is that your child can learn these skills, and that you are their partner in providing those right circumstances and environments for them to learn and master it. So again, that mindset around that is so important. And then, of course, the next milestone is the walking. Huge one. The two ones what the parents complain the most about with me are the rolling milestone at 4 to 5 months and the walking milestone. The walking milestone, oh my gosh, you will find them in the crib, literally like circling the crib in the middle of the night. Banging on the crib, circling. Sometimes this milestone takes weeks for them to go through. Like that other family, it took, gosh, I want to say it took 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. So we had just finished sleep coaching. The child had done beautiful, it took us a while to get through sleep coaching because the child had reflux. So we had to go slow and steady, and we finally got everything looking beautiful with nights and naps. And right on the heels of the sleep coaching came that walking milestone, which I do want to mention to you guys, just so you're not surprised, that one of the benefits of sleep coaching your child is that if a milestone is hanging out, ready to make its appearance, but it just hasn't had the nudge to come because your child isn't getting consolidated sleep, because remember, consolidated sleep is where babies get their, they're processing their memories and their learnings, and they're preparing for their next milestone. So if your child has really broken sleep and has a lot of sleep struggles, oftentimes their milestones will be delayed. And so one of the benefits of sleep coaching is that once the child gets that beautiful consolidated restorative sleep that you benefit from after really appropriate sleep coaching, that right on the heels of it comes a milestone. And sometimes my families are like, oh, I'm finally sleeping and now the milestones. I'm like, no, this is good news. This means that everything we did is allowing this new milestone to come. Like, again, this is so beautiful, wonderful. This again is your job, and that helping your child learn these sleep skills is allowing the milestone to come on. And then now the child's going to have the energy to move through this milestone. And so it's just a really positive thing. So I wanted to make sure that those of you that are in the middle of sleep coaching right now, that don't be surprised if the milestone sneaks up behind you. So anyway, is there anyone here that has some questions on milestones and sleep regressions that I haven't answered? I know I gave you guys a ton of information. There's obviously a lot more I can talk about. And on these get your sleep back, get your life back, it starts with sleep, I'm going to be alternating between answering your questions that you can submit in advance, as well as coming up with topics that I am getting a lot of questions on a weekly basis that I feel that I want to just give out loud. So I'm going to go in here and post something right now that's also in my description, but I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the feed, that I do these sessions here on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific, and really they're meant to be where you can come for accurate and reliable information and get your specific questions answered. And I want to be able to do that for you. And this is how I'm about to post here. I'm a little bit pokey normally, as I mentioned. My fabulous virtual assistant would be here with me, but she had a family commitment. Okay, so this is the link to submit questions in advance. Also, those of you that want to learn a little bit more, if any of you here are mompreneur and you're like, ooh, I want to get that info on baby sleep strategies, I'm going to post. I did an audio version of my chapter so that everybody can listen to it, because obviously I know, a lot of times us moms, we don't have a lot of time to read, but we definitely have time to listen. It's about a 15-minute audio, and this will give you some really helpful baby sleep strategies from my book. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And I know it's 4th of July weekend, so I hope that all of you stay safe and also have some good time and make some memories with your child. If any of your children are going through a sleep regression because of a milestone, then you probably are going to want to make a ASAP purchase of the Wonder Weeks, and also download the app, and remember to use your due date, not your birth date. Those of you that are pregnant moms or newborn moms, if you don't have those, go ahead and get that, because that's going to make your life a lot easier. Those of you that are in the middle of sleep training, just know that after your child's sleeping through the night, sometimes that new milestone comes up right behind you, and that type of regression is actually a good news regression. Those of you that are having regressions because you went away for the 4th of July weekend, or God forbid anyone got a cold or any other kind of stomach bug and you had to offer care and comfort to your baby during that time, please know that any regression that comes along, there's always a way to reestablish healthy sleep habits. And the key is knowing that before regression, did my child have their sleep skills? If they had their sleep skills, then usually within 3 to 5 days after the regression, you will be able to be back on track and everything's going to be just as perfect as it was before the regression. However, if you had a child with a lot of sleep crutches prior to the regression, oftentimes you will be in a worse situation than before, in which case that's really the time to start considering doing some sleep coaching. And remember, I am a gentle sleep coach. Do not believe in cry it out. I really do believe that it's important that a parent is in the room with the child learning these important life skills of regulating, settling, and soothing to sleep. And I am here to support you if you are in a position as a parent where you're like, wow, I don't even know where to begin on this sleep coaching journey. Absolutely, we can have a conversation. In fact, I will post that in the feed as well. I do 45-minute sleep strategy sessions where we will do a Zoom video session with you, me, and your partner. And we will talk all things sleep regarding your child and what your concerns are, what your struggles are, what your barriers are. And we will literally get to the bottom as to why your child is not sleeping well. And then we will come up with a step-by-step approach on how to get your child to learn their sleep skills so that you can enjoy blissful sleep. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope this information was super useful. And any questions that you have, go ahead and post this. If you're listening to this on a replay, just type hashtag replay, then I'll know that it was you that had the question. Any ideas for future topics that you want me to explore, more than happy to be doing things customized for all of you. So happy 4th of July, and thank you so much.